We finally got into it. Predictions for 2022 for the F1 season. And today we're covering America's favorite team, Red Bull.
America, the world's favorite team. I've never seen a single person on Twitter get mad at Max Verstappen.
Yeah, same.
So,
and everybody in Latin America, well, I guess I would say North America loves Sergio Perez.
Yeah. So, America's team, Central America's team, hell, my favorite fucking team, just because they beat Lewis Hamilton, it is goddamn Red Bull.
Red Bull.
And Hans, he's canceling me right now for cursing. He's holding up the postcard.
Beep, beep. Red Bull predictions. Let's take a look at the drivers that are going to be coming in for this season. We're going to be doing a series on all the teams and all the drivers. And so for this episode, we're going to be covering Red Bull. The drivers 1 and 2 for the Red Bull are going to be Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, who were in the team last season, 2021, and I think they did a really awesome job. Obviously, they were so close to winning the Constructors' Championship, and they came through with the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, they did fantastic. They had a little bit of struggles, but as everybody saw, fair and square, no weird things going on.
No FIA involvement at all.
Nothing weird. Verstappen won it fair and square. But if we're going into where they finished, Verstappen obviously finished first in the driver's standings, and Perez finished fourth. So they both have a little bit of work to do because Verstappen was getting beat early on by Hamilton.
Yeah.
And he does every now and then, especially later into the year, do some risky things that, can be bad for the team.
Yeah, cost them a race, cost them a DNF.
Yeah.
And so I think for 2022, my prediction for Max Verstappen is seeing him on the top so long as he kind of calms that down a little bit more and is a little bit more calculated. Like, not necessarily risking a crash or taking that kind of desperate move, but instead, settling for the P2 or taking him down on another turn.
I think Verstappen's never going to back off of stuff like that. That's just the kind of race car driver he is. And I love it. I mean, it makes good TV. It makes good constructors and drivers championships. He's a hard-ass person to beat. And if he's in a top machine, he's going to be a top driver. Whether 2022 Red Bull will perform as good as it did this year or if it's going to drop off and become midfield will, be yet to see. But prediction-wise, Verstappen's always going to be top 10.
Yeah.
Every single year.
In race. You mean in the races and in constructors?
He could be in the worst car possible, and I still think he's putting up really good numbers and being really aggressive.
I'd wonder how he'd perform in like an AlphaTauri. Do you think he would?
He'd do really good, yeah.
Yeah, because Pierre Gasly was up there a few times. So, I think I could see him. So, I guess to end the discussion on Max Verstappen, do you think we see him on the top step next year? Do you think we see him winning the Drivers' Championship again?
He's not going anywhere. He's, a force to be reckoned with, as we like to say down here in Tejas.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an awesome driver. He's a lot of fun. He's super young. I think he's got a long career of a really good driving, as long as he doesn't go up in a fiery crash.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be great to see him in a new car with teams that have been really hyping themselves up. I'm looking at you, Haas. Don't want to say anything, but, you said, ooh. But I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
I think
he's a great driver.
Originally, I was like, okay, well, it's just a machine for Verstappen. I think that's why he's doing so well. But then I think back to the Hungary race, where his car was half destroyed, and he was still overtaking people. He was still doing a really good job, and I'm like, this guy's adaptable. He can modify his driving style to whatever type of machinery he ends up getting. And so that's when I was like, okay, yeah, this is the next Lewis Hamilton type figure that's going to be in F1.
I don't know if he's going to go as long as Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he's like...
Yeah.
People love to hate, but he has literally become the GOAT.
Yeah.
With wins, championship, years of...
wins.
Excellent driving.
Yeah.
Who can say the past decade who's been the best driver? There's people who have had great seasons.
Yeah.
And then Lewis Hamilton's either right behind him or right in front of him.
At the very top.
Yeah. And he's just chilling, so... I think Verstappen, this isn't a one-and-done kind of deal. I think with Red Bull behind him and with Honda staying till 2026, he's going to be a fantastic driver, and he's always going to be in the rear view or in front of somebody who wants to beat him.
Yeah, I think I completely agree.
Yeah.
I see him on the top step
Yeah.
next season. All right, switching over to Sergio Perez.
Sergio.
He
Box,
started
box,
off. Yeah, he started off a little weird. I think Imola he qualified second, out qualified Verstappen. I think that was the only time he did that.
Mm-hmm.
He did really well, but then I'm like, he kind of had a slippery slope after that. Mid-season, he wasn't doing too great. Compared to Bottas, he wasn't doing like super great the entire time. It wasn't until the end of the season that he really got his foot in. And I would say if this was going to be the same exact car from this year going into the next year, I'd say this upcoming year for 2022, easily top 3.
I don't believe so. He finished 4th in the driver's standings, right behind Bottas, right in front of Sainz. He only had 1 win. He only had 5 podiums with 190 points. He was about 36 behind Bottas, and he was about, 30 or so behind Sainz. And he can have some incredible races. He can also be a terrible driver. And if he does not get his qualifyings down, if he does not become more of a reliable driver, he's going to struggle for Red Bull to get constructors wins. He's either the best driver on the track that day, or he's doing something stupid during qualifying and starting in the back and just getting fought.
Playing catch up.
Yeah, fighting midfield teams.
Yeah.
Which in Zandvoort, he destroyed. I mean, it was craziest.
But it should have been an easy podium for him.
Yeah, but
it should have been an easy podium.
It could have been 1-2.
Yeah. So I was disagreeing with you up until you said that, where I think personally he's going to do really good this season because he knows what Red Bull's expecting of him. He knows that Pierre Gasly is looking at that seat for 2023. And so he knows if he wants to keep his seat at Red Bull, he's going to have to perform really well. So I think he's going to have a lot of motivation behind him. And I think he's one of the few drivers that performs very well along a driver like Max Verstappen, but then also under pressure. And so I think for him next season, if he can secure at least a top 3, I think that's going to be really, really awesome for him. Where do I see him at the end of the season? I think I still see him in P4. I think when some of these other drivers are getting their new cars, you look at McLaren, Ferrari,
yeah.
I think it's very possible that one of them is going to creep up to P3, P2, and then Lewis being up there as well. I think Lewis is definitely going to be up there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So Perez, a huge fan of him, but when you compare him to someone like Max or Lewis, he's just not on that level. But on race day, he's there. He's present, and I think that's when he really shines. And he needs to improve on those qualifying. And as long as he can improve on those qualifying, he's there. He's going to be in that race in contention. And as long as no weird things happen during qualifying, I think he's going to be present.
Yeah, but did you hear yourself? As long as X, as long as Y.
Yeah.
It's like he needs to do better in so many different fields to become that good of a driver. And he hasn't shown it. And when he did Racing Point, he didn't show it.
But as a number 2. But he's a number 2 driver.
He's still a number 2.
He's a number 2 driver, so it's fine. He doesn't have to be there all the time. He doesn't have to be there all the time.
I think, if he wants to be a number 1 driver, he should drive like a number 1.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, he did. So after he got his win at Baku, I remember in one of the interviews, he was like, I want to get a world championship next. That's what every driver says after they win their first race. They're like, I want to be a world championship. And I was like, all right.
Hold up.
Let's hold up. Let's hold up a little bit. Let's win a few races in a season, and then we'll say something like that. But I think things are going to look pretty promising for Red Bull, especially with Christian Horner behind the realm. I know he got his contract renewed recently, and so he's going to be with the team for another few years. They're definitely in good hands with the team coach like him, and so we'll see where they place constructor-wise. I don't know if they have it in them because of some of the inconsistencies. The one thing I'm curious about is the focus from the 21 season. How is that going to affect their 2022 season?
I don't think there's a whole lot of change in terms of what they want to accomplish. But in terms of how they're going to do it, it is going to be very different because the first, I'd say month of racing, first 3 to 4 races is going to be pretty wild in terms of who's going to take the spots, who's going to come out. Because, even midway through the season last year, there was a whole lot of confusion because they were very even and constant. And there was a lot of up and downs with teams. But I really think with this new format and new drivers, that it could be explosive. I mean, you got new tires, you got new cars, new engines being developed, new pretty much everything from the nose to the butt of the car. And we'll just have to see. I know Red Bull's going to perform great. I know Christian Horner is going to do everything he can to make these drivers understand it and give them the testing and time they need behind the wheel.
Yeah.
But it really will come down to who can finesse the system the best. Red Bull's pretty good at it, but
they are pretty good at that. The flexi wing that they introduced at the beginning of the season.
I think Mercedes is a little better at sneaking stuff, and Ferrari's pretty good too. So we'll have to see.
Ferrari's a sneaky
It's
team.
gonna be tough.
So where do you place them? They placed second last year in the constructors.
I think constructors, Red Bull number one. Even with Perez being wishy-washy, because we'll talk about it in a later video, but I don't think George Russell is going to perform.
Yeah,
so I think
I agree.
Red Bull constructors wise, number one by a decent margin.
I totally agree. I think seeing how they adapted this season and how they performed, even with Sergio Perez's kind of slip-ups, but then also Max's slip-ups. He had a lot of slip-ups as well. I think they're going to take away a lot of stuff from this season, and I think they're a force to be reckoned with this upcoming season. So I see them 1 for Max Verstappen, maybe a 3 or a 4 for Sergio Perez, and then 1 again for the constructors. Or I guess not again, but they're going to be placing first in the constructors this year, or this upcoming year.
I can see it with their team and their engineers and their drivers especially.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy number one unless something just wild happens.
Yeah.
With,
some crazy team.
First month, and there's just like somehow Haas becomes the best team in the world. That's the only way they wouldn't be number one.
Awesome. All right, well, those are our predictions. Those are our kind of talking points for Red Bull. Let us know if you hate us in the comments, if you agree or disagree, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, Viva la Mexico.